Hello everybody. Thank you for your interest in our family history. This covers the Beggan and Carroll story. We have researched as far as possible to gather information on our ancestors. We have reached back to the beginning of the 1800s, which is our great-great-grandparents. There are many interesting characters in our family, so sit back and enjoy. We start with our great-great-grandfather, Brian Beggan and Catherine Carroll. They married in 1805. Their children were Bridget Beggan, who married Thomas Keoghan, Judith Beggan, who married Bernard Cadden, Mary Beggan, who married Patrick Lynch, and James Beggan, who married Marcella Brady. We now focus on the only son of Brian Beggan, James Beggan, who married Marcella Brady. James was born in 1812. He married in 1836. He died in 1892, and he died at the age of 80. His wife Marcella was born in 1819. She married in 1836. She died in 1869 at the age of 50. James Beggan married Marcella Brady on the 26th of November 1836. Their children, born in 1837 Brian, 1839 Catherine, 1841 twins Thomas and Bernard, 1843 Mary, 1849 Catherine, 1852 Bridget, 1854 James, 1856 John, 1861 Marcella. Julia is not on the register. They had 11 children, and Marcella died on the 15th of October 1869, aged 50. Her youngest child was 8 years old, and only one child, Mary, was married when Marcella died. James and Marcella's fifth son was our grandfather, John Beggan. He married Margaret Murphy of Herbertstown. They lived on a farm inherited by Margaret Murphy from her maternal uncle in Sarahstown. She was the daughter of George Murphy, Herbertstown. John Beggan was born on the 2nd of September 1856. He married on the 29th of November 1890. He died on the 1st of July 1934, and he died at the age of 77 years old. Margaret Murphy from Herbertstown was born on the 1st of April 1864. She married on the 29th of November 1890. She died on the 7th of October 1947. She died at the age of 83 years old. There are no photos of our grandfather, John Beggan, that we know of, but people always refer to him as Parnell, the Home Rule leader. This gives us an idea of what he looked like. If we go back to our grandmother, Margaret Murphy, she was the daughter of George Murphy of Herbertstown and Anne Fagan Sarahstown. They had 8 children, 5 girls and 3 boys. One set of girls were twins, among them our grandmother, Margaret. Their children, James, born 1893, remained unmarried. George, born 1896, married Mary Carroll. Marcella, born 1898, unmarried, died young. Anne, who we call Nan, born 1901, died in 1969, unmarried. Margaret, born 1903, married in the USA. In April 1911, there was a census in Ireland. This picture is an extract from the census. We can see that our grandfather John was 63 at the time, our grandmother Margaret was 47, and their 5 children were young at this time, with James being 17, George 15, Marcella being 12, Nan 10, and Margaret being only 8 years old. It seems from the document that they can all read and write, which is a good sign that they are at school. A few words about the family of John and Margaret. Eldest child, James, is remembered as a tall, quiet man, over 6 foot, a keen hurler and footballer with Kilskia. He was a skilled hurler, and on one occasion he scored a point from a puck-out during an important match in Park Thalton, Navan. He was a quiet, reserved gentleman who lived his whole life in Serestown. George, our father, the second son of John and Margaret. Like his brother James, George had a similar stature, tall, slim, athletic. When George and James were in their early 20s, it was a time of political rebellion in Ireland. They both joined as volunteers in the Ballinlough IRA company. In 1921, George was arrested at the homestead in Serestown and interned in Ballykinler internment camp in County Down. He was held in compound number 2. Fortunately, James escaped, being captured that day, and returned home, but never spoke about his ill treatment at the hands of the British. Marcella, the first daughter born, like all the brothers and sisters, went to national school in Kilskia. She continued her school and became a poultry instructress. She spent some time in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, Marcella encountered ill health and died of pleurisy. She was only 35 when she died. Marcella died exactly 1 year after her father John. Anne, as we know as Nan, our closest aunt, meant everything to us all. She lived at the homestead with her brother James, and after James died, she lived alone. We all fought with each other to spend the weekend with her, where she would pamper us with fresh baking and freedom. She was known for her Kearney bread. We were inconsolable when we heard that she was incurably sick. She lived until she was 68. Margaret, third daughter, was the youngest daughter and worked in Kells as a bookkeeper. When George, her elder brother, decided to travel to America, Margaret decided to join him. George and Margaret left for America in 1928, and they were sponsored by their uncle George Murphy. George Murphy was the owner of Murphy's Tavern in Newark, New Jersey. George sponsored them, which was necessary for them to enter the United States. Margaret and George remained in America until 1932. They both returned home to Ireland for the Eucharistic Congress in 1932, where George stayed home and Margaret returned to America to marry Maurice Nulty, whom she married on the 9th of September 1933. A few words about our father's time as a volunteer. In 1916, he joined the IRA Ballinlough Volunteers. During the War of Independence, George Beggan, Serestown, saw active service with the 5th Battalion Meath Brigade. He was deployed with the Meath Brigade area from March 1917 until April 1919. He was arrested at his home, taken to Trim, then on to Arbour Hill. He joined the other prisoners and was put on a destroyer for an unknown destination, which turned out to be Belfast. The prisoners, handcuffed in pairs, eventually arrived at Ballykinler Prison in County Down. One of the prisoners was Ireland's famous patriot priest, Father Thomas Burbage. George Beggan was the proud recipient of 2 service medals given by President de Valera for service to his country. In 1928, our father George and his youngest sister Margaret travelled to America. George and Margaret saw a good opportunity to make a better life for themselves and took it. The journey involved a train journey from Dublin to Cork, where they left Queenstown on board the SS Republic. Queenstown is now known as Cove. This journey typically took 6 weeks, which was long but worth it. On arrival in New York, they were met by their uncle and sponsor, George Murphy. Our father, George, worked hard in America and started first working in George Murphy's tavern, and then found great work in Henry Ford's factory off Edgewater, New Jersey. Likewise, Margaret found great work in the Prudential Insurance Company. Both returned to Ireland in 1932 for the Eucharistic Congress. George stayed while Margaret returned to the US. This is a letter from George Murphy of 145 Maple Avenue, Newark, New Jersey, to our father, George Beggan. The year was about 1933. It goes, "Dear George, I just received the papers from Mr. Mooney a couple of days ago. I had them signed by the Free State Council and mailed back to Mr. Mooney so he can put through the deal now right away. Well, I wish you the very best of luck and happiness in it, and I'm sure your mother and father and all the family will be glad to see you settled in the old homestead. I have heard on very good authority that you are going to get buckled up very soon to a very nice girl. Well, more power to you. There's nothing like it. I'm only sorry I cannot be there to dance at the wedding. But you will have my very best wishes and the best wishes of all the family. I suppose Father Coyne is back in Clonmellon with you again. Myself and your Aunt Mary were to see him a few times when he was here. He was to spend Sunday afternoon with us, but he took off on Saturday afternoon. I hope he's feeling well. And now that he's on the trip, it's done him good. Well, George, I have no more news this time. I received £375 from Mr. Malloy about a week ago. The balance he is holding until the deal is completed. Hoping you are all quite well, as we are here, in the best of health, but very little improvement in the times. But we still have hopes for a change for the better. With love and best wishes to you all, as ever, your fond Uncle George. P.S. Tell your mother to write to me soon. I would love to hear from her. Goodbye. We now focus on our father, George Beggan, who married Mary Carroll of Newtown. She's the daughter of Jordan Carroll and Mary Ann Murphy. George Beggan, born on the 16th of February 1896. He got married on the 5th of February 1940, and he died on the 17th of October 1971. He died at the age of 75. Mary Carroll, born on the 5th of July 1918, married on the 5th of February 1940. She died on the 24th of May 2004, and she died at 85 years of age. Their married address was Herbertstown, Crossakeel, Kells, County Meath. We are so lucky to be able to talk about our great-great-great-grandparents, which brings us back to the late 1700s. We're talking about Patrick Carroll and Anne Levy. Their children. In 1782, Michael was born. 1783, Thomas. 1787, John. 1789, James. And 1791, William. Now we talk about our great-great-grandparents. William Carroll of Fenner, who married Marcella Doyne of Collinstown in 1828. Their children. Anne, born on the 23rd of August 1829, she was an infant death. Patrick, born on the 16th of April 1832. John, the 21st of January 1834. Mary, born on the 3rd of February 1835. Peter, born on the 6th of September 1837, married Mary Seary. Thomas, born on the 3rd of April 1840, and Anne, born on the 12th of October 1843. Catherine was born in 1849. She went to Australia. She became Mrs. Patrick Enright. 2 sons, William and Michael, but both unmarried. Catherine died on the 11th of February 1924, aged 75. John Carroll, who was born on the 21st of January 1834, married Elizabeth Seary. Our great-grandparents, their children, Peter Carroll from Ranelagh, who married Mary Seary from Banagher on the 27th of June 1864. Their children, Marcella, born on the 8th of February 1866. She went to Australia in 1888. She married twice, number 1, Mrs. Derham, and number 2, Mrs. White. William, born on the 20th of January 1868. Margaret, born on the 10th of July 1870, she became Mrs. Paddy Ryan of Cathertonstown. She had 1 son who never married. Peter, born on the 20th of August 1872. Mary Ann was born in 1873. She became a nun in Australia, in Parramatta, under the name of Sister Augustine. Catherine, born on the 24th of October 1875, she married a Swedish gentleman called Carl Hellstrom. They ran a boarding house. He died many years before her, and eventually when she died, she was buried beside her brother William in Waverley Cemetery. James was born on the 10th of March 1878. He married Miss Annie Casey of Walchestown. John, born on the 3rd of August 1880, my grandfather, married Mary Ann Murphy from Newtown, Clonmellon. And Marie-Therese, born on the 10th of September 1882, became Mrs. Tom Fitzsimons. Her husband was a school teacher from Fore. John Carroll, born on the 3rd of August 1880, married Mary Ann Murphy of Newtown Clonmelon on the 3rd of June 1909. Their children were Peter, born on the 12th of May 1910, Mary on the 5th of July 1918, and Kathleen in June 1920. Peter married Josephine King, Clonigavant, also known as Daisy. They had 2 sons, John and Joe. They lived on Daisy's farm in Clonigavant. John died on the 12th in 1972 in June. Joe married Kathleen and lives in Shirley, Croydon, UK. The last child, Kathleen, married Jack Carr, Rathbrack, Killallen in September 43. They had 4 children, Mary, Anne, Catherine and Mattie. Our parents, George and Mary Carroll, had 7 children. The first one, myself, Margaret Mary, known as May, born on the 30th of April 1941. I married Battista Ottolini in 1968. Number 2, Anne, born on the 19th of August 1943, married to Nick Farley in 1971. 3, John, born on the 8th of December 1945, married to Margaret Renahan in 1973. 4, Marcella, known as Sally, born on the 21st of February 1949, married to Robert Kajak in 1984. George, born on the 16th of May 1951, married Catherine Hogan in 1978. Jimmy, born on the 24th of May 1957, married Kathleen Farrington in 1982. And Kathleen Beggan, born on the 23rd of March 1962, married Thomas Donnelly in 1996. Until the 1950s, we grew up without electricity. This meant that we had light from oil lamps and we used batteries for radios. All the cooking was done on open fireplaces. Electricity came to our house in the 1950s, which was a huge change and altered our lives for the better. Some interesting information about 3 generations of our mother's family, who all went to Loretto Convent in Navan, County Meath. Firstly, in the early 1900s, our grandmother's sister, Bridget Murphy, born in 1882, attended Loretto School in 1900. Her sister Mary Ann Murphy attended in 1902. The second generation also attended this school, our mother, Mary Carroll, in 1932, and her sister Kathleen Carroll in 1934. Third generation, myself, Margaret, known as May, Beggan, in 1954, and Mary Carr in 1953. Mary later became Sister Mary Carr, who then entered St. Michael's Loretto Navan in 1963. It's interesting that all the wedding dates we mentioned were in the late winter or early springtime. This is not a coincidence. Example, our parents got married on the 5th of February. This was solely related to life on the farm and the need to have weddings only during the quieter months.